All right, guys, pretty exciting day. We're gonna go ahead and drop everything off of the machine shop for the Evo Wagon. What we decided to do was actually use the 4G63 out of the wrecked car. Everything seemed good with that, just needed the crank kind of polished, but what we did is we took the crankshaft out of the 4G69. So this is a factory 100mm crankshaft. It is basically a 100mm stroker crankshaft from the factory. It is forged, actually a really lightweight crankshaft too. So it's one of Mitsubishi's lightest crankshafts from the factory as far as the 4G family. 4G63 block, 4G69 100mm crankshaft. We have 150mm rods, and then we have a set of 2-3 stroker style pistons. So these are 86 mil. So we're going basically 40 over on this this cylinder or this engine block right here. So yeah, pretty stoked. These are 10.5-to-1 compression, and we actually have a set of Gsc intake valves as well as beehive springs and retainers. And so what we're actually going to be doing with these are +1 on the intake. So this will make basically the valve is a millimeter bigger, so it'll let a little bit more air in the cylinders. And yeah, so this is my budget 4G63 stroker. Also right here, got some more stuff. I have the oil pump, have a fluid dampener. We have the zero tick lifters, got a Turbo Smart, I think that's the blow off valve. And we have some GSC S2. These are the 272 camshafts for the Myvec head. So gonna go run and drop these off at the machine shop. I'm waiting on the exhaust valves, but I figured might as well get the cylinder head dropped off of the machine shop so they could start hot tanking it, taking it apart, and then actually modifying it to fit this 1mm bigger intake valve. So yeah, so I mean, literally we saved about $1,200 on a crankshaft. Like,
so basically the only difference is the crank.
Yeah, instead of like spending $1,200 on aftermarket crankshaft, this is a factory forged crankshaft. It probably won't hold 1,200 horsepower, but at the 800 range, I don't think we'll have any issues at all. And we are going with the 4G63 block, so the 2-liter block. This is exactly what you do for a 2-3 stroker. Instead of buying an aftermarket crankshaft, you just use a stock one.
Yep.
So that's all we're doing. So a little bit overboard on the pistons, and then these are the Wiseco boost line rods, which these are the exact rods that are in the yellow Civic, and I've been beating absolute crap out of that thing. So we are running a little bit late. Gonna get these things to the machine shop, and yeah, hopefully we'll be picking these things up shortly and assembling it for you guys. Hey guys, a lot of people have been wondering what is up with the Evo Wagon, where it's been, how it's doing, why we haven't worked on it. A lot of that is because of this thing right here. So we made a video, I feel like it's been 2 months now, everything wrong with my good engine. So we had a good 2-liter stock Evo 9 engine that we were just gonna put in that thing and get it running and driving. And then we pulled the pan, it had a bunch of bearing material in it. Everything was like, well, if I'm not gonna buy another one of these, because I already have 2 of these that need rebuilt, so we might as well rebuild it. And then while we're in there, I have this stroker crank out of the 4G69, the factory 100mm crank, which is what you need to make one of these things a 2-3 stroker. So I was like, well, let's order some pistons and rods. And while we're at it, let's just use that 100mm crank. We'll order some stroker pistons. So what we have right here is a 2-liter block that we have a 100mm crank for with 86mm pistons. And what that means is that now we have a 2.3-liter stroker essentially sitting right here on this bench that we just need to put together. So the other thing that you'll notice is actually that the fenders are painted. So I painted the fenders, I painted the side skirts, I painted the hood, and I painted the front bumper, and I just ordered a bunch of brackets from Mitsubishi to actually hook up. There's like $1,000 worth of brackets and mesh and all kinds of stuff to go in the front bumper to actually make it actually bolt on like OEM. So this is the engine that we sent to the machine shop. So it is bored to 86 mil. We dropped off the pistons and everything to him, and it's pretty much ready to go. We just have to take everything from over here on the bench. So what we have right here is a set of 86mm Wiseco asymmetrical pistons. So these worked out really good because those were actually in stock. Normally you have to custom order those. These are the asymmetrical ones, and they are, I believe, a 10-to-1 compression. One of the things that I don't like about the 4G like building process is like everything you look at is like super low compression. And then we actually have a set of these Wiseco boost line rods. So these are the same rods that I have in my K24, 900 horsepower, 300 horsepower all-wheel drive Civic. So that is that is what's going in there. So we got Wiseco Pistons rods. We also have a set of the zero tick lifters. And then right here, we have some GSC Series 2 cams. So these are their 272 camshafts for the variable valve timing, or the MeVec on the Evo 9 cylinder head. So pretty stoked about that. We have a JE Pro Seal 86 mil head gasket. We have a new ACL oil pump. We have King main and rod bearings and a thrust washer. Then if you come over here to the cylinder head, we didn't stop there. So we have GSC valve springs and retainers, and these are also beehive springs. And then what we did is, you know, since these things, since the 4G just doesn't flow as much as a Honda, we tried to do as much as we could. So we actually did 1mm oversized intake and exhaust valves. So it has oversized intake and exhaust valves. So we should be able to get a little bit more air in that cylinder head. We didn't do any porting or anything to it. I didn't think we were gonna have time. So 2 weeks after getting everything from the machine shop, now I am waiting on more parts and other stuff that I ordered. So we need a balance shaft kit, we need the timing belt kit, water pump, some of that other stuff. So we are gonna go ahead and focus on getting the bottom end of this thing assembled. And once it's assembled, then as soon as we have the timing components, the head should be on it, everything should be able to pretty much just like slap it in time. We have a crazy clutch sitting over there for this thing on the ground, and then we should be able to slap it in the car. And then one of the favorite things,
then we can drive it.
What was that?
And then we can drive it.
All right guys, so got all of the pistons and rods and everything laid out over here on the bench. So there's those Wisecos. Pretty stoked on these. I was really happy that they actually had these in stock, because everything was like 9.0 compression. I was like, this isn't like freaking 2004. Yeah. You know, that's not how you build a turbo engine now.
8.5 compression.
8.5. I mean, maybe if we're running like pump gas or something. So anyhow, what we're doing now is, now that we have the block all machined, everything ready to go, he did the correct piston to wall clearance based upon the sheet over here. So he basically just did that little, you know, did a little calculation right there. So now what we are doing is doing the top ring and the second ring. So the piston rings are all laid out right here for their corresponding piston and cylinder. So we're doing the top ring right now. So you can see that little gap. I don't know if it'll focus on it. There's a gap right here, and kind of like a gap in between your teeth, and so you need to make sure that that is the correct spacing. Yeah, you can see it right there. So
you use the top rings?
Yep. So you take the feeler gauge, stick it in there, measure it, see how tight it is, and then we bring it over here to this ring filer. You squeeze the rings as even as you can, and just sit here like you're like winding up a jack in the box, and you grind the rings, and then bring them over here. Make sure they're the correct spec. We're doing 0.025, which we have this guy right here, 0.025, and do that for the top ring and the middle ring, and then we'll double check the oil rings and all that other stuff, and then we pretty much just slap the bearings in this thing. Take that 100 mil crank over there and give her a rip. All right guys, so got the crankshaft in here, and it spins. So
that supposed to do that, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the important things. So we have this piston and rod right here ready to go. Sean went ahead, got all the rings filed. Everything is good with that. Got them clocked on here according to this little diagram right there. So the one thing is, since these are a stroker piston, it has a cylinder or a oil support ring right there on the bottom. So we had to make sure that we installed that. So instead of having 5 rings in the ring pack, it actually has 6. So yeah, anyhow, those things are ready to go. Stick them in there, but I am slightly concerned because these rods, since they are the Wiseco Boostline rods, you can see how big of a boy they are right there. They got a little girth. So in my K-Series Honda, we actually had to notch the block. So we might end up having to notch the block on here.
Pull the crank back out. Buddy.
Means we got to pull the crank back out and do some other things. And I'm not really stoked about that, because that wouldn't be very fun. All right, guys. So this is the crankshaft out of the, was it the 4G6?
4G69, the 100 mil crank.
Yeah. So there's a stroker crankshaft. We got stroker pistons and rods, but right now we just put this thing in here and it got stuck halfway through, and kind of it's not the worst thing in the world, but we definitely now we have to pull the crankshaft back out of here. Basically notch the block where the bore is right there, so you can see where this is. Like the rod is just down there and it just hits the block. And alright, so last time we were messing with the block, that was like 2 weeks ago, that was like 10 seconds ago for you guys. Crank hit the block. This is how you fix that. This is who we call Buenos Noches. So we notch the block with Mr. Buenos here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this thing, a little belt file sander, stick it right here, right where we need to give a little extra clearance for the Mr. Uncle Rodney, and then just give her a little bit of the beans, like right there in the center. How you doing, huh? How's that looking?
Looks great.
Careful.
Incoming.
Go ahead. All right, guys, so the block has been officially ground. You can see right here on the inside we notched all that stuff. We actually had to notch this little piece of the girdle too, because it was, not the piece of the girdle, the block right there. And then we had to be really careful because on this side, on the inside, there's actually an oil passage that goes through there. I'm not sure if it's pressurized or not. Well, actually, it probably is.
Yeah, oil squirters.
So we should probably pull the oil squirters out, you know,
Before we wash it?
yeah, and then we could pressure wash that hole and let it all spew out, because you can see, I don't know if you guys can see right there, there's like some
We're gonna wash the oil squirters.
a little bit of stuff. That's it. So we got the engine block all cleaned off. Everything is notched, ready to go. And so now what we're doing is we're using this cam bearing install and remover tool, and we're removing the factory balance shaft bearings, which is basically a cam bearing. We already got one out. I just wanted to make sure that we knew. I got this tool off of Craigslist a long time ago.
Is it moving? Or is it too expanded?
Might be a little too expanded. So what we're doing is expanding this little thing. It's kind of like an exhaust expander, but you use it for, you know, use it for the bearings. So he's gonna go ahead and whack the end of that thing, push that bearing out, and then we'll install. Yep, it's moving. Matt, hey, what are you doing right now?
I'm just cleaning up all these parts that are covered in RTV.
RTV and yucky stuff?
Yucky
so,
stuff.
I made a big mistake. Obviously, this Evo has been sitting here for about 3 months since we finished the last Evo giveaway, and then we did the Super giveaway, which just completed right now, or last week or so. And so now, I basically realized how many parts and stuff that we needed that we were missing for this whole build. So, it was pretty much had everything for the engine. Ended up having to like overnight some, or like get the oversized valve, so it has +1 intake and +1 exhaust valves in this thing. It has a new oil pump, has the balance shaft delete kit in it, which Sean got all that stuff installed later this week.
Yeah.
We just kind of been picking away at this thing like, you know, 20-30 minutes a day, maybe an hour here and there of putting stuff together on the engine. But we finally got, I'm gonna say this is the rest of the parts. So we have brand new water pump kit, because the water pump that was on here was an aftermarket one. So brand new water pump kit. These things are like almost 300 bucks, 250 bucks for water pump kit. New OEM timing belt. We have front main, rear main seals. We have timing belt tensioner, or what are these? The pulleys. And then we have the tensioner. And then over here in the box, we have a bunch of stuff for the front bumper. So it's kind of crazy. The front bumpers on these things are, I think it was about $600 or $700 from the dealer just for the bumper skin, front bumper cover. But then I almost have another $600 or $700 in just grills and brackets and, you know, ducting and rivets and all kinds of stuff to actually get this front bumper properly mounted on there, to where it's not just going to be like flappy and wavy and like want to fall off. So again, we did get everything painted for the front end and the front bumper and all that stuff. I don't know if I've actually showed you guys that video yet, but this engine is pretty close to being 100%. So all we pretty much need to do is get these are the timing, like the little, yeah, so cam position sensors need to go back on, and then we can pretty much put the valve cover on it. And then at that point, the only thing really left to do is the water pump, and then all the tensioners, the pulleys, and everything to put the timing belt on, time the engine, put the oil pan on it, and then this thing should be pretty much ready to go. Then we can throw the clutch on it.
Ready to drive it.
So we'll let Sean finish up some of this stuff over here, and yeah, we're almost gonna have a complete 2.3 liter stroker. This thing's pretty much fully built. I mean, there's really nothing else you could do to it other than port the head.
Yeah.
Like if we ported and polished the head and like sleeved it, but you don't.
Wise, though, it's
No, yeah, I
ready to
mean
go.
pistons, rods, stroker crankshaft, freaking cams, valve springs, retainers, oversized valves, buddy. This thing is
it's gonna be-
this thing
it's
is
gonna be
gonna
a unit.
rip. Like we thought the giveaway Evo was fast. It was a 2.3 stroker, but this is actually this is probably gonna be just as fast, maybe a little bit faster. We might turn
What
it up
did
a
the
little bit.
giveaway make? 735.
735.
Oh yeah, buddy. This thing's gonna rip.
This thing's really gonna rip. So, Sean got the valve cover on, got it all in time, water pump, all that stuff ready to go. So pretty much now just need to install this little rear main seal cover and then the oil pan, and she will officially be official. We got a 2.3 stroker, buddy.
She's done. Ready to rip.
Almost ready. Then we could
Drive it.
Yeah. Guys, so engine is complete. Well, that's complete long block. The oil pan on it, got all the covers and everything on the front side of the engine. Even topped this thing off with a fluid dampener on account of it, you know,
Making some power.
2.3 stroker, no balance shaft, making lots of power, all that type of stuff. So pretty stoked to actually see this thing sitting on the stand and kind of getting, you know, basically we're ready to put it in, kind of at this point, really.
Put it up to the train.
We have to put the alternator bracket and AC brackets, all that stuff. We do have a clutch. We do have a turbo manifold. We have a turbo. we have a lot of stuff to put in this thing to basically get it ready to put in the car. But that'll probably be, maybe not tomorrow, but the next, or probably on Monday.
Yes, because tomorrow we have to.
Yep. Tomorrow we got to mess with
Get
C10.
that thing ready
We're
for
playing
the
with that
track
thing.
tomorrow.
But see what that thing does at the track. I'm excited to see what this thing does at the track. So again, yeah, this thing is it's ready to go. Sean did a great job. This video was filmed over the course of like 3 months.
You've been waiting for parts and getting stuff, and then finding the time to work on it. And
yeah, it's
a mess, but
it honestly has been a mess, and I am bummed. I almost like lost like the we lost the momentum.
We worked on this thing every single day for like 2.5 months straight, and then
Yeah.
got it to this point, and then it sat there for like
Well,
that for 3
we
months.
literally got it to this point, and then the engine was on the engine stand, and we're like, okay, pull the engine off, let's reseal the oil pan. Bam, metal shavings in the oil, and then it was like, what do we do?
So might as well build it.
And then we made that video, and then it's pretty much just been a planning and, you know, parts game, just trying to get stuff and trying to figure out the time, and obviously jumping into the super giveaway, and we had a lot of stuff to do with that, which that thing is pretty much all wrapped up. This thing is kind of ready to go back in. So yeah, that will be the next video you guys see of this whole Evo Wagon build. So if you guys have not yet checked out some of the previous videos of it, if you guys have just seen this thing, or if you have not subscribed, please consider subscribing. Leave a comment, let me know what you think of pretty much. I think this is kind of getting up towards the only actual Evo Wagon converted. There's one more, I think, that's actually all-wheel drive and did all the other stuff. I think so. Yeah. But anyhow, I get ours isn't running and driving yet. So we got coilovers, man. So many parts in the background for this thing are getting ready to go on it and actually make this thing running and driving. My goal is to have the engine and tranny in this thing by the end of next week, running and driving, at least starting. So appreciate you guys watching. See you later.